So I have a pretty giant story here that mainstream media in the U.S. basically just missed. Really big story. They didn't care. Look at this. This is from The Independent. ISIS is finished. Syria declares end of terror group's project as last town held by jihadis falls to army. So they explain here, ISIS militants withdrew on Thursday from their last stronghold in Syria, a strategic town near the border with Iraq, following a government offensive that has effectively left the extremist group's fighters dispersed in villages in the desert. The Syrian military declared the town of Abu Kamal liberated after intense battles that killed a large number of militants, including leaders. The military said they are still chasing other ISIS militants in different directions in the desert. So that seems like pretty big news to me. Quote, ISIS is finished. So why is this not, giant news? Well, unfortunately, we have an answer. Because it's the Syrian military, which means it's Assad that defeated them. And by the way, it's them backed by Russia and Vladimir Putin. So now compare this to the news when it was in Iraq and it was ISIS that was kicked out of Mosul and was kicked out by the Iraqi government backed by the U.S. When that happened, when the U.S., backed the Iraqi government and they took back Mosul, huge news. Covered everywhere, in the U.S., everybody's excited. Now you have, quote, ISIS is finished, the last major town they held in Syria. Barely any coverage in the U.S. Because in order to cover that story, what would you have to say? You have to say, oh, decent job, Russian-backed Syrian military troops under Assad's command. And they can't do that. And they can't do that for geopolitical reasons. Because, hey, the narrative is, Cold War is still happening, Russia bad, Assad bad. So Assad needs to be toppled, Russia needs to be contained. And so nothing they do is good, ever. Even if it's like, defeating ISIS, which is pathetic that we can't, that's how warped our media is. And what does that show you? It shows you Noam Chomsky's manufacturing consent is 100% correct. Because the argument from Noam Chomsky was, listen, with the corporate incentive structure in our media, what happens is the media ends up painting a picture of the world that's just as bad as state media in dictatorships, if not worse. So in other words, we like to pat ourselves on the back and say we have free and open media here in the U.S. But no, corporate media always paints a picture of the world that is in the eyes of the elites. That's in their vision. So that's why you have, the Republican Party propaganda network, Fox News, the Democratic Party propaganda network, MSNBC, the people that do propaganda for both of them, CNN, for all of the establishment, they do propaganda. The nightly news, CBS, ABC, go down the list. They also do the propaganda for the establishment of both parties. And you don't really get any radical voices in mainstream media or any voices that are willing to question the fundamental underpinnings of the system. So everything is the furthest left you go is Democratic Party politics, furthest right you go is Republican Party politics, and just do apologetics for the establishment. You'll never get anybody who goes, hey, you know what? Maybe this is an instance where we give Assad credit, we give Putin credit, they defeated ISIS. Obviously ISIS is a bigger evil than either one of them, even if we admit that both of them are bad. Can't do it. Can't do it. Because they're from the same social class. You have the elites in the media. They're all vetted and filtered, so the only people who end up on TV are mindless drones like fucking Don Lemon and Wolf Blitzer. So they're going to read whatever's in the prompter. And what's written in the prompter is something that elites in Washington approve of. Elites in Washington approve of never giving Assad or Putin credit for anything, even when it means that they fucking defeated ISIS. So that's where we are. That's how shitty our media is, where it took me a while to find this story. It took me a while to find it, that ISIS is damn near obliterated in Syria. So there you have it. It is a day for celebration, and you could put aside your differences, for a day, And you can keep everything in perspective, too. Hey, Assad done horrible things. Putin does horrible things. Of course. But you can also acknowledge defeating ISIS is a fucking good thing, and that's what they've done.